As they continue their journey, Aiko realizes that 5 days have already gone by since they left home. Curious, she asks Kunan how much farther they still have to travel before reaching Dashi. Kunan explains that they're still within the borders of the Juglia Kingdom, and the full trip should take about a month. However, they're almost at his grandfather's estate. Hearing that, they ask Aiko if she truly plans to part ways there. She confirms it calmly. Yes, that mansion will be where they say their goodbyes. Trying to lighten the mood, Kunan points out that she's not getting any younger, and jokingly suggests she should think about marriage before she ends up alone. Aiko immediately fires back, asking if he honestly believes he could live without her. Teasing him even further, she asks whether he would really abandon Princess Maro just to marry someone else. Kunan is completely caught off guard. Unable to respond, he quickly changes the topic, claiming he can already see the mansion up ahead. When they finally arrive, Kunan activates his special eye. It has been 4 long years since he last stepped foot in the main house. He suddenly remembers how, back then, his grandfather had dramatically declared he wouldn't stop dancing until they agreed to take him with them. At that very moment, the front door swings open, and there stands his grandfather. After 4 years apart, the two warmly embrace. Although his grandfather claims he missed him dearly, Kunan can't help but imagine demonic horns above the old man's head, as if he were some overenthusiastic demon king. Overjoyed, his grandfather announces that he'll buy absolutely anything to celebrate Kunan's acceptance into the academy. Before that, though, Aiko hands him a letter from his daughter. Even after reading it, his excitement doesn't fade. The letter clearly warns him not to spend more than 500,000 nekas on gifts, roughly equal to 2 months of Aiko's salary. Despite that, the grandfather insists on secretly giving Kunan something extra. Kunan quickly stops him, reminding him that their visit is actually about Aiko's replacement. That replacement turns out to be Rinko Round, an 18-year-old maid. She explains that she applied for the job because of the generous salary. She hopes to save enough money to open her own shop after she gets married. Kunan greets her politely and asks if she happens to be Aiko's sister. Rinko confirms that she is, and quickly mentions that she's already engaged, just to avoid any misunderstandings. Kunan laughs and responds that he's also committed, claiming he loves his fiancée just as much as he loves food. Rinko promises to do her best in her duties, which reassures Kunan. Now he can continue joking around without making things awkward, especially since she resembles Aiko, minus the imaginary horns he sometimes pictures. Later, while preparing a meal, Rinko admits she was nervous about serving Kunan at first. But after meeting him, she realizes he's surprisingly easygoing. Aiko explains that when Kunan is deep into magic training, he completely forgets to eat. That's why someone needs to bring him food while he studies. It's the best way to understand him and build a good relationship. Thinking back, Aiko remembers the day she was first assigned to serve him. Back then, Kunan was quiet, serious, and distant. Over time, however, he slowly grew more confident. Concerned, she asks Rinko not to plant any strange ideas in his head, otherwise she'd never forgive herself. Rinko jokingly asks if she means inappropriate jokes about women. Aiko immediately covers her ears, refusing to even imagine Kunan's innocent heart being corrupted by scheming girls. They both agree that only Princess America deserves that special place in his life. Rinko promises to be careful, though she admits it might be difficult, since Kunan is so naturally kind to women that it could easily be misunderstood. Suddenly, Cole cuts in, firmly stating that Kunan has a pure soul and would never betray his values. And right in the middle of their serious discussion, they overhear Kunan casually declaring that Rinko actually seems like the real flirt here. Later, as Aiko finishes packing her belongings, she knocks softly on Kunan's door and announces that it's time for her to leave. Sensing this may be their last quiet moment together, Kunan decides to speak from the heart. He asks if she remembers when their teacher once said he wouldn't be capable of living on his own. Aiko nods. Of course she remembers. Kunan reflects on everything that's happened since then. He left his family. Now he's parting ways with her. Soon, he'll head off to the Magic Academy. Yet every single decision along the way was his own. Their conversation ends not with more words, but with a tight embrace. Soon after, Kunan boards the carriage, sitting beside Rinko. His grandfather calls out, asking him to stay just a little longer, but Kunan pretends not to hear and orders the driver to move forward. Rinko quietly asks if he's truly certain about leaving so soon. Kunan admits that if he stayed any longer, he might lose his resolve. Then, curious, he asks whether it bothers her fiancé that she'll be away for several years. Rinko shakes her head. Their shared goal is to save enough money to open a business together. The wait is part of the plan. When they arrive in the city, they're immediately overwhelmed by the countless magic shops lining the streets. One particular book displayed in a window captures Kunan's attention. Inside, they discover that the store specializes entirely in magical texts. But there's a problem. The book costs $5 million. Rinko nearly faints at the price. The shop owner approaches and asks if Kunan is a mage. When he confirms, she asks him to demonstrate his magic. Without hesitation, Kunan forms a tiny cat made of water in the palm of his hand. He then asks if she is a sorceress herself. She laughs and says no. She simply loves magic. She encourages him to work hard in Durashik Academy, mentioning that the Holy Kingdom's saint will be attending that year. Last year, there was even an unknown prince and a lightning prodigy from a newly formed kingdom. That information sparks Kunan's interest. The owner offers him a special deal on a book written by Shawnee, but Kunan declines. Rinko is still trying to process the value of these books. Once outside, she asks why he didn't buy it. Kunan calmly replies that he already knows what's written inside. After all, there's a chance the author might have been him. They move on to another shop, this one selling fine fabrics and rare materials. The merchant watches in confusion as Kunan repeatedly runs his fingers along Rinko's sleeve, carefully studying the texture of her clothing. Deep in concentration, he finally turns to the seller and asks what creature the material came from. He explains that he can memorize textures through touch alone. The woman answers that it's made from the hide of a dark fox, an extremely rare species. Immediately, right before her eyes, Kunan recreates the dark fox using magic. The saleswoman gasps in amazement. She asks if he can replicate anything, as long as he understands its texture. Kunan replies that he can recreate the external appearance, but not the internal essence. Then, far too bluntly, he comments that in theory, he could even create women. Before he can elaborate any further, Rinko quickly covers his ears and drags him out of the store, clearly flustered. Moments after they leave, 3 new customers enter. Among them is the Saint, who came searching for rumors about a dark Zoro scarf. However, their attention is drawn to the fox Kunan left behind. The Saint immediately recognizes it as a magical construct, and when someone touches it, the fox dissolves instantly. The Saint's companions joke that, judging by how the fox dissolved, it barely contained any mana. After a long trip, Kunan and Rinko finally arrive in Durashik, the city that houses the prestigious Academy of Magic. Not wanting to waste a single moment, Kunan heads straight to the academy to reserve a room in the student dormitory, hoping he and Rinko can settle in quickly. But when he speaks to the receptionist, he's met with unexpected news. There are no rooms available. The registration deadline had already passed quite some time ago. Kunan is stunned. He doesn't recall his teacher ever mentioning such an important detail. At that same moment, the scene shifts to Randy Montand working quietly in his office until someone suddenly crashes through the window. With a serious expression, the intruder declares that they need to talk immediately about his student. Back outside, Kunan and Rinko leave the academy feeling discouraged. With no dormitory space available, they consider other options, perhaps staying at an inn or even renting a small house for themselves. Rinko blushes and briefly misinterprets this as some kind of marriage proposal. The receptionist hands them a list of recommended real estate agencies. Instantly, their spirits lift again. The following day, they stand proudly in front of the home they've rented, a fresh start in a new city. Elsewhere, 2 professors step into a dimly lit room and receive a list of incoming students for a certain subject, one whose instructor's identity remains a mystery. As they scan the names, one of them pauses. Kunan, disciple of Seon Lee. The name alone is enough to catch their attention. Soon after, Kunan returns to the academy to take the entrance examination. However, Rinko is stopped at the entrance. Maids aren't permitted inside during testing. Determined, she even attempts to bribe the receptionist, but it completely backfires, forcing her to remain outside. As Kunan walks down the corridor alone, he politely thanks the receptionist for helping them earlier. She introduces herself as Luvial. The moment he hears her name, Kunan instinctively begins showering her with compliments, something he does almost too naturally. Meanwhile, a group of students approaches, drawn by Kunan's distinct and unfamiliar presence. And as he looks ahead, a spark of excitement fills his eyes. A new city, a new academy, new rivals, and new opportunities. Kunan can't wait to see what awaits him next.